Hi, everybody. It's been a while, but we're partway through Pride, or a little more than halfway through Pride. And today, and so, as I said at the start of the month, rather than trying to, read a ton of authors who fit into the month's theme, I'm going to try to read one or two. And if I end up reading something else and reviewing it, then that's okay. But at least I'll try for somebody within the theme. So today I'm going to review Flowers for the Sea, and the author's name is Zin E. Rocklyn. They are a we got the trifecta: queer, disabled, and a person of color. So I'm quite excited about reviewing diverse authors. And okay, I know that sounds a little bit smarmy. I'm sorry. I don't mean to come across like that. But I don't want to go into tokenism or identity politics or anything like that. I just want to discover authors that are somewhat outside that common straight white cis, usually male. The Stephen King's. Stephen King's one of my all-time favorite authors. No problem there. But the more newer authors that I can read, and the more authors from diverse backgrounds, I find just more enriching experience. And so I really enjoyed the work that I read from Zin E. Rocklyn. They have published in Sycorax's Daughters, which I picked that up, and Nox Paradolia, I have that one too. I didn't get a chance to read the stories there. I read an essay that I thought was really interesting called My Genre Makes a Monster of Me, and they discuss being disabled and what it's like to live in a body that is not considered normal. And I also saw a couple of flash fiction pieces, different places around the internet. You can go look that up. Tor.com has some of their work on it, and Tor is the publisher for Flowers for the Sea, which is coming out in October. And I was lucky enough to be able to read the NetGalley proof of it. And I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give it a 4.5 stars. It's described as an alluring horror fantasy debut in which a black woman does not save the world. And it was also described as Rosemary's Baby meets Octavia Butler. So that's an interesting description, and certainly it hooked me. Okay, I'm going to get this out of my system, though. Not being all that familiar with Octavia Butler's work, I mean, I'm familiar with who she was and some of the concepts that she wrote about and so on, but I'll admit I haven't read any of her work yet. I was reminded a whole lot more of Waterworld. I'm sorry I feel embarrassed about saying that, because Waterworld was universally panned as just a terrible movie, which is unfortunate because I really enjoyed it. I mean, the boat was really cool, and the premise of Flowers for the Sea is quite similar. The coast has disappeared. The people, some kind of environmental devastation happened, and the coasts were flooded out, and now the people live on a boat, and they're dying. And the story is told from the point of view of a young woman named Iraxia, and she's pregnant. She and the last of her community, they've been on the boat for a few years. She says the number of days, but I can't remember. It's like something like 2,000 days or something, which I'm not sure I did the math right. And not only is everybody dying, the resources are running out. Most of the women who get pregnant don't manage to carry to term. And the ones that do, the babies they end up dying. And they also, they can't even do a whole lot in the way of swimming or fishing or anything like that, because there are these creatures, they're called razor fangs. They come down and they will swoop off and eat the children and so on. And they're described as bird-like creatures, bigger than men, that steal children. And there's something else in the water, some kind of Lovecraftian, fishy, awful things. So these people, they live in terror of the things of the natural world around them, and it's closing in. They don't have anywhere else to go. And Iraxia was part of the upper class, or the nobility, and she has inherited some secret from her family, and she so the rest of the people on the boat, they resent her, possibly because of where she comes from, or possibly because it looks like she's going to bring the baby to term, and they're furious at her for it. And that was one of the themes that I found really interesting about the book, was how politicized babies can be sometimes. How the baby is so all important that they forget to take care of the mother. And there's a clear idea that once she has this kid, it's probably going to kill her. And they're just probably going to dump her off the side of the boat anyway. They don't really care about her. And she's angry, she's furious, and probably rightly so, because she can hear the people conspiring against her. So there's a bit of a love triangle as well, between the father of her kid and her, the woman that's going to be the acting midwife. And she ends up having the baby. And the baby is born not quite human. And there's quite a lot of body horror. The birth is, and the pain and the blood, and that's all described in really frightening, really horrific terms. And then she ends up, the baby is this sort of, okay, so here's where the spoilers are, so you can turn it off now if you don't want to hear the spoilers. But the baby ends up explaining the secret of her being sort of the next stage in evolution, and the baby is as well. So she ends up leaving the boat behind and leaving everybody to die. And it's her anger that is kind of her, her saving grace, and what's going to carry her through, whether it's now and she's going to die, and that's very heavily implied, or going into the next life. So it's a really, the writing is really rich and really visceral, and it creates a really interesting world. The reason I only gave it 4.5 stars was I found the ending a little bit abrupt, and I found that when you're creating a world like that, it's a difficult balancing act between the backstory and what's happening in the front story. And the front story is quite simple. I mean, it's the last couple of days of her pregnancy. She has the baby. She steps off the boat. The end. So to try to weave in all the backstory in that, and most of the time it's pretty deftly done, but I found that the very ending got a little bit confusing. So I mean, that's probably, I take the 0.5 star off for myself more so than the story. But 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this one. The writing's really rich, and I really hope that lots of people get to read it from Tor when it comes out in October. And hopefully Zin will agree to an interview with me for the horror tree. So we've got that to look forward to, and hopefully some more queer authors before the end of the month. Hope you're reading lots of great horror. Have a great day.